Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you something quite a bit different. I'm actually bringing you the replay of a practice game that myself and Valh played in preparation for the 6 Divisions tournament and our games versus Betts and Haymaker. Now, in order to make this as good as possible, we enlisted a couple of friends who are very competent at the game, and they were going to take up the Allied side in our practice of the Axis on this map, Sainte-Mère-Église, which would be the map that we would have to play against our opponents because it was chosen as their home map. So we knew that going in and therefore decided to practice on it. Now, in order to select divisions, we decided to emulate it in the same way that would be done in the picks and bans. So just as a baseline, each team has 4 divisions on each faction to choose from, and those were predetermined before the tournament started and have remained the same since. So in this case, on the Axis side, myself and Val's choices are the 2nd Panzer, 1st SS Panzer, 716th Infantry, and 3rd Fallschirmjäger. The opposing team gets to ban one of those divisions, and then myself and Valh can choose from the remainder. So we assumed that because we believe it is the strongest division on this map, that they would ban the 2nd Panzer, and that would therefore leave us with the other 3 divisions to choose from which we chose the 1st SS Panzer and 716th Infantry. On the Allied side, we did the same thing. So we set up them with the 4 divisions, Demi Brigade SAS, 2nd Infantry, 6th Airborne, and the 15th Infantry Scots. We knew that we wanted to ban the 15th Infantry Scots against our potential, our next opponents, Betts and Haymaker. So we basically gave the choice between the remaining 3 to our opponents in this game, so that we could practice it. And they chose the 6th Airborne and 2nd Infantry. So that's what we're going to be going up against in this one. And that's basically the context for this entire game. It's just a practice game that myself and Valh wanted to play in order to basically brush up on our game plan before we went into the actual map. And depending on whether or not we got Allied or Axis, we could be prepared and sort of have an idea of what we may or may not want to do. So I'm quite used to using the 716th. Many of you guys who watch the channel will know that the 716th is probably my favorite division. It's not necessarily because I believe it's very competitive. I just love the way that it can fill the front line so easily and has a lot of availability to work with, which sort of enables this interesting play style of I don't want to say quite suicidal, but aggressive infantry play, which I kind of like to do in the game. And is actually one reason that Steel Division 2 is so exciting, because I'm going to have plenty of Russians to throw at the front line. Now, speaking of Steel Division 2, I'm sure many of you guys will be interested in my thoughts on that, and I am planning to sort of do a thoughts video on Steel Division 2, so look out for that in the future. But for now, you can see that I've deployed 3 Osttruppen on this right side with a command infantry and a Panzerschreck. There's going to be an IG-18 covering further back. We've got some Fusiliers going to be giving us recon information for this open area where the defense marker is. Then I've got an IG accompanying a Pack 40. I've got 1 unit of Osttruppen going into the right side of the town. Meanwhile, on the left side, Valh is going to be pushing very aggressively. Our idea was basically that I would play defensively on the right and towards mid, and then I would sort of support Valh with Lorraine on the left as best I could in order to help him sort of break through and possibly make us a bit more ground at the start. And you can see that already off the bat we found ourselves a +1, since we have bumped into the Ox and Bucks here, and I'm already pinning them with the Panzerhaubitze Lorraine, so that's going to be fast moving up. I don't want to let it get out of range. There is a limited range on the Lorraine of the 1,600 meters, so that's something that I would have to be careful of. Now on this right side, you can see the M4DD coming up. And my only real counter to that at the moment is the Panzerschreck, so I do definitely need to keep that safe. And you can see I've actually brought it outside of the building rather than have it inside the building, allowing it to be spotted by potential recon. And I've just kept it in the bush behind, so it's a lot less likely to be spotted. But the IG-18 here, not in an ideal location when it's being attacked by an M4, but my Lorraine's still firing away, just trying to pin down infantry as I go. IG-18 on the right side does go down. And this infantry in the town is sort of being slowly but surely pushed out. And that's kind of what we expected. You can see that we definitely committed a limited amount of forces to the town because we knew that against the 6th Airborne and the 2nd Infantry that there was no way we could really contest it. But because between us we've got Osttruppen and Volksdeutsche, which are both absolutely awful against things like AB Paras, for example, which have 14 HE at close range. So I'm just kind of holding this right side where the ranges kind of work in favour of the MG34s. But the other good thing about like just Osttruppen in general is they can take a lot of punishment. But what I'm going to be doing is bringing up a B2 here to support this attack that is coming towards me. And I've got 2 more Panzerschrecks as well, as it's very important that I have at least one alive to eventually take on the M4DD. Now you can see Valh is marking his targets. These 2-star 6-pounder here, going to take out one of his Stug 3s. Actually, I believe that was, yeah, the Tetrarch Little John. It did a lot of damage to his forces on this left side. He got ambushed like very well by both of the players, and that was unfortunate. But either way, my Panzerschreck does find the kill onto the M4. And now that that is dead, I can safely use the B2. So just in general, all I've got to do is kind of hold back these forces at range and then utilize the B2 as best as I can and its line of sight to find sort of kills and damage where I need to, because it's not like they're going to run out of infantry availability in phase A at least. But as long as I can do as much damage as I can to the elite infantry early on, I'm going to have a lot less of it to deal with later on. And that is something that therefore I can exploit. Not moving this B2 forwards earlier was definitely a mistake at this point, since the M4DD was at this point dead. Fusiliers here are spotting that M1 gun as well, so that gives me indication that there's less likely to be one on the right due to the cost of those units. The Pak 40 here, I managed to get that up into the tree line. That's now going to take the shots at the M1 gun, going to allow the HE to try and kill that off. In order to get a little bit of a foothold back into this town, I'm actually bringing up an IG-18 and the Osttruppen. And these IG-18s just fantastic for just covering off the edge buildings, allowing you to pretty much contest them covered by the IGs. And that allows your terrible infantry, like these Osttruppen, to actually succeed against what would be more elite infantry. Now, there's quite a bit of a salient on this left side, but I'm just going to use my Panzerhaubitze Lorraine to force back this Tetrarch Little John and stop that from pushing any further, since Valh is left with just infantry on that left side, since both of his Stugs went down, and his AA support that he had, which was, again, just unfortunate. He got ambushed. It happens sometimes. Pak 40 did end up finishing off that M1 gun. You saw the kill pop up on the right side, and those infantry that are trying to push across the open, the IG-18 is doing the job. Now Ju-87 is flying about for Valh, and he made great use of these throughout the game. But so far the plan's kind of gone the way we wanted it to, with Valh managing to make a break on the left side, and then myself kind of just hold on this right side. And getting the kill initially onto the M4DD was really, really important, because it enables the B2 to do its job, basically. Unfortunately, a lot of my Osttruppen are already dead, but that was to be expected, and of course I do have plenty of infantry availability, so moving on in the map, I can continue to reinforce those men. And against, again, the elite infantry, they will run out of that quicker than I will run out of my terrible infantry. So that's what I can kind of rely on in some ways. So these Ox and Bucks trying to engage my Osttruppen in the open. You can see the IG just does such a good job of stopping that from happening. These Osttruppen are suffering. These Grenadier, I'm going to just be smoking them off. That uses up their last smoke grenade. And that's just quite simply to keep up the command here, because I just want to be able to get these Osttruppen back and have them fight a little bit effectively and just not die so easily. The other reason is I don't want that to die so that the front line doesn't collapse. So I'm also moving up the B2 since I haven't seen any Ranger Marauders just yet, and the Ranger Assaults were all that were approaching the Grenadier, so I can definitely make good use of the B2 if I keep it in a decent position. Now I've also decided to bring up a Flak 88, and the idea of this was to have it like on the road in a position that could utilize a 1,200 meter range the whole way up, so that if this M4 decided to come further left, it would get hit by the 88. So I decided to unload it just next to this tree in the soft cover. Now the B2, you can see that it can have line of sight onto these rifles, but is not in line of sight of the M4. And this is something that I utilised very well and practiced a lot on this right side during the game. It's something that I purposefully did. These orchards can be so great for stopping these engagements, and you'll start to see this B2 just do so much work. Now I'm lucky here that the M4DD actually bounces that shot, but I don't want another chance for that to happen, like another chance for the M4 to actually get the kill. So you can see I bail from that engagement immediately, and knowing that if he comes closer he will potentially get hit by a Panzerschreck, the M4 has to back off here. So the B2's actually in a really strong position because the Panzerschrecks are a threat, whether or not they are alive. So Ju-87 does come in on the right side. Valh tries to have a go with that, but there is the Bofors, of course, covering. And well, with that reveal, they can take shots with the Pak-40, but you can see that I'm being approached here by a Ranger Marauder squad. It wasn't ideal, but I did just reverse as quickly as I can, and honestly I was pretty lucky there that 2 rockets missed. Like, this could have been a dead B2, and then the M4DD could have probably just freely pushed up. Although saying that, I still had this Panzerschreck on the far right side, and although it's pinned, would have a potential to get a kill there if it was very aggressive. But yeah, lucky to get away with that B2 not dying, and now I can just continue to use it the same way as I have been. Now in order to supplement the command that did die, I just brought up a couple more. And well, this 88 is doing a nice job of cleaning up some of the infantry as it gets aggressive. I've also decided to supplement another AA unit over on this side, so that if Valh wanted to use Ju-87 again, it would be a little bit protected. I'm also bringing up a couple units of infantry on this left side, as you can see, to help Valh hold this salient, which is still giving us the +1 and now taking us into the 400 points. So my Panzer Haubitze Lorraine just trying to do its best to help out with some of these infantry engagements as well. You can see that it has used up quite a lot of its ammunition so far, and I think it did a pretty good job in this game of making sure that Lorraine was used to its best ability. But in order to make sure that the enemy cannot sort of focus on one side or the other, I do still put a little bit of emphasis on this town. You can see I'm bringing up another Osttruppen squad, and that's going to be supported by a Flammpanzer B2. Now on this right side, artillery is threatening my Flak 88, but as you can see, more Osttruppen arriving, and those are just going to make it difficult for the infantry to push onto me. Because the infantry always needs to come first in this case. You could almost go as far as like just throwing recon squads, but since the Ranger Marauders were unsuccessful, that was probably the recon that he was relying on. So taking that out definitely put me in a good position. Anyway, more Osttruppen makes it harder for the player to push, so I'm just going to have my B2 sticking close to my Osttruppen and carving them up as best I can. Meanwhile, we just want to keep holding this +1, keep gaining an advantage, because as far as we're concerned, moving into the late game, things just get better and better for our divisions. Not necessarily for the 716th, but the 1st SS can start to take advantage of its heavy armour in the late game, with the things like Panthers basically coming in. And in Phase B even, you can get the Panther Gs if you want to. So the infantry push coming in, you can see this time around it's mostly just rifles rather than the ranger units. And that's something that my B2 can definitely rip to shreds, especially a 2-star B2 that is currently buffed up by the Grenfuhrer here. So rifle squad reveals itself, gets killed. And with like the amount of HE that these B2s can put down, they can do so much damage in a short amount of time. So once again, rifles here coming into the building are going to get hit very hard indeed. Grenfuhrer, I should probably have the rifles off on these, honestly. But still, B2's doing all it needs to. Rifles slowly but surely being taken out. And if the building gets flattened, then so be it. At the end of the day, I can still rely on the orchard. And you can see that here I've actually moved the Osttruppen forwards to the edge of the forest, so that this mortar fire that consistently comes in on the right side doesn't actually hit the mark. So that was very important as well. Now since this push is putting quite a lot of pressure on me, I do invest in a Verflammen and get that to basically slow down the push by putting down the flames and pinning a lot of the infantry. I've also now got a Panzerhaubitze Lorraine to counter battery specifically. I don't want the artillery to keep pinning my infantry like it is, because it leaves the risk of the infantry just being like mass surrendered eventually if the enemy artillery is microed properly. So if I start counter battering now, it doesn't ever get to a point where it is too overwhelming, and therefore doing it sooner or later is like really important. Now with that Osttruppen dying, it is a bit deceiving, because obviously the Panzerschreck doesn't hold the front line forwards, but it basically stops the mortar fire onto this right side, and the Panzerschreck can sit there in waiting if it wants to try and get a kill in the future. Grenfuhrer do go down. Fortunately, do have a second Grenfuhrer. Spot another Ranger Marauder squad, which is nice. Making sure I know where all of these Ranger Marauder squads is very important. And honestly, I probably could have invested in, say, a Fusilier squad here on the right side, far right side, sooner than later. But this Fusilier squad was doing a great job of providing me recon throughout the game. Now, since myself and Valh's infantry in Phase A is relatively mediocre in both the Osttruppen and the Volksdeutsche, you can see they have been sort of cleaned up here over time. But now Valh's going to be bringing in some reinforcements in the form of some Stosstrup and the MG42 there. And my Lorraine still has a little bit of ammunition, so I'm going to use that to engage the Pathfinder still and the airborne paras. And I'm also going to bring up some of my own infantry and of course a supply, since the Lorraine has 2 shots left. Now, I was hoping that this IG might actually be able to help out with the AB paras here, but fortunately Val's Puma was in line of sight, so that was helping out. And this IG-18 was able to fire down the road as well. So the Osttruppen now advancing further into the town. You can see that these Osttruppen can sit on the edge of the town uncontested at the moment, which is really nice. Just gives us a little bit more ground, which can really make a difference. And my 88 was eventually artied. This Pack 40 did come in to reinforce and cover the road again in a similar fashion, but of course did get hit pretty hard by artillery. Quite lucky here that my B2 actually shooter knocks the M4DD, but due to the veterancy, B2 relatively accurate. Not an engagement I necessarily want to continue. I'm going to go ahead and get behind that orchard again. So I could have been moving forwards the Flammpanzer B2 here, but due to the Orks and Bucks having the 200 meter range Piat, it would have required quite a lot of intense micro in order to just exploit that extra little 60 meter range, sorry, not millimeter. that I would have needed to in order to get the flamethrower to work properly. And with a B2, which is quite slow, it's very unwieldy. So I just let that engagement continue to the point where the Ostribon would most likely die. I could have put them on return fire. As you can see, the Ox and Bucks can't see them when the Ostribon aren't firing. So that is, again, something that you can take advantage of. Now Valh bringing in the Ju-87 once again. Going to be harassing some of these vehicles, pushing on the left side. These Tetrarchs were actually being quite irritating for Valh, I believe, throughout the game, but kept on top of them quite nicely. Panzerhaubitze Lorraine counter batteries, one of the artillery pieces, and well, my B2 here currently just backing off, got itself in a bit of a sticky spot. So just utilising line of sight to reverse as far away as I can, and then maybe I can sort of get into a position to shoot these rifles without being engaged by the M4. That was the plan, at least. So far so good. I'm just kind of covering off where I can with my infantry, and Valh's trying to get something going on the left side. He's now brought in a Panther G as well, so very helpful indeed. P-47 Thunderbolt does come in, and it bombs out quite a bit of Valh's infantry, but thankfully I still have the Italian infantry there. And, well, Focke-Wulf comes in and cleans up one of those Thunderbolts, which was a nice kill indeed. Pack 40 is going to be engaging the Bofors. Does have the 1-star veterancy, so relatively accurate. I did eventually bring in like a Grenadier to accompany this Pack 40, since it wasn't getting focused by artillery very much, and that ended up killing the Bofors, which was really nice. This Pack 40, unfortunate not to be able to get a shot off onto the M4. I think it did actually have one shot, but it didn't find the kill. And my Lorraine ends up finishing off the second Bofors there, which was really good. So now again, just focusing my artillery on counter battery. Pack 40 in the meantime does get hit by artillery, but we're doing a lot of damage here, and this B2 being a hell of a nuisance that this M4 can never really get the line of sight onto unless I sort of slip up on the micro, which I have a couple of times and kind of got away with, but yeah, that's mainly due to the front armour just being enough apparently. So Panzerhaubitze Lorraine just going to continue its fire on the left side, just kept it up. Valh's now going to consolidate his forces and look for another way to push. I'm still being hit by xylophones, and that xylophone I think was intended to hit more, but due to the spacing of my infantry here, you can see that it only actually hit and pinned one unit of infantry, which makes all the difference, especially when they're trying to push aggressively into the tree line. You can see that like 2 of the squads just aren't pinned at all. And that means that when these squads come out into the open, they more or less just get completely ambushed. These Ranger Assaults also in a pretty sticky spot as they come into the tree line there, but with the double M4s on target, that Italian infantry is going to be killed off. So Wehrflammen, that needs to come in and save the day. Anytime that a push comes in, I decided that it'd be a good idea to just use the Wehrflammen to like prevent pushes, rather than use it aggressively and try and find kills. I would just use it whenever there was like potential aggression coming my way. So in this case, I use it to try and force back the M4s and then push it with the B2. The B2 is very unlikely to kill at this range, but if it can get a side shot, then it would work. Unfortunately, in this case, I didn't manage to get the side shot, and you can see the shots going off target quite significantly. But at this point, I may as well commit to the engagement, since the M4A1 was pinned down already quite significantly. And now I'm going to have a couple more shots to try and get the kill here, but none of them landing on target. So Panzerhaubitze Lorraine still looking for kills here and there with the 6-pounders and AT guns. You know, we want to get rid of those as best we can, and that will therefore allow Valh to be a bit more flexible with his units. I'm also now going to invest in my own air force, since I do have the Flak 36 and 88 here. I'm quite confident in using the HS-129, and I'm going to use it in this case to take on the M7DD and the M4DD. Now, taking out both would have been fantastic, but taking out one was a must, because with both of those units together, they can definitely chew up infantry and my armour like very quickly. And eventually take out that Panzerschreck, and that was unfortunate, but the B2, you know, enough to start hammering those infantry squads. Tempest does come in, gets on the back of one of the Ju-87s, shoots it down. There was some nice micro on both sides, I think, throughout this game. In the air, at least. Well, even on the ground. Our opponent's very, very good. This IG, thankfully helping pin the Tetrarch Little John on the Cromwell 5, stopping the kill onto the Panther G there. Puma does go down to the M5 gun though, which is unfortunate for Valh. But these air landing, they're going to be found. Shot at by quite a few units. I'm just continuing to hold the ground here. Now also brought in the 380mm off-map. Once again, more as a defensive unit than an offensive one. Putting it on the place where the reinforcing units are coming in. And therefore able to cut down the infantry squads to size, which makes it therefore easier for the B2 to clean them up. It also potentially pins down the tanks here, and that may lead to kills with the B2 if it's at close range at least. I'm bringing in some more reinforcements. These are a bunch of grenadiers, and since the latest update, you can now get a lot of availability of grenadiers in the 716th, and it's something that I think is very welcome. Just allows you to hold for that little bit longer in a game. There, it was very important that I stopped that P-38 Lightning. That could have done a lot of damage. It could have killed the Pak-40. It could have killed a lot of this infantry. So the fact it didn't was really nice. And therefore the Pak-40 actually ended up weapon jamming one of the Panzer IVs, or one of the M4s, sorry. Now you can see that off map, it did bring down some of these squads in terms of their strength. That allows the B2 to clean them up nice and easy. Looks like the mortars here ran out of ammunition and they automatically ran forwards, which is a bit of a mistake. But on this left side, Panther G is still in play. And although there's a bunch of tanks here, they can't really do too much. On the left side, the amount of Volksdeutsche that Valh invested upon was quite significant. That's 50 Volksdeutsche, well, 49 now, going up against the air landing and the remaining units on the side of the 6th Airborne at least. Internal fragments there. Pretty lucky for Valh not to lose his Panther. Typhoon now comes in with bombs, looking for the kill onto the Panzerhaubitze Lorraine. Doesn't manage to find it. Focke-Wulf shoot it down. I bring in my own Me-109 G6R6, shoot down the Tempest. That was a really good air engagement for us. So unfortunately, after quite a bit of time, my B2 does get killed by the M4DD here. My off-map does end up killing another unit of Ranger Marauders, which was fantastic. And having got rid of those, I can be quite confident with another B2. So another one's on the way to be just as annoying as the previous one. And this was something that I was just practicing throughout this game and hoping to sort of use potentially in the game against Betz and Haymaker. Playing on this side of the map, I believe is actually harder than the other side because of the way that the tree lines are placed. So I got a lot of practice on this side from this game, and it definitely helped out a lot moving into the game against Haymaker and Betz. You've got to remember, once again, this is a practice game, and you can just see how intense it was. It was actually an incredibly good game that myself and Valh had a lot of fun playing. Another HS-129 coming onto the field. That is going to be looking for kills onto the Cromwell 5 and Challenger there. You can see that I'm sort of coming in at an angle, trying to figure out where their sidearm is facing, then pulling in to try and get the kill. I do get a few shots off, but the AA in the mid was much more significant than I had expected, so the shot's not very accurate at all. Panzerhaubitze Lorraine, still looking for the shots onto the support units, going to be hitting the Bofors on the left side. A Panzer B2 once again taking shots from enemy armor. Not something that you really want to do. So just making sure that I continue to move forwards. Honestly, if that tank hadn't moved back though, I don't think I would have noticed. And the B2 probably would have committed suicide. Either way, I am able to get shots off onto the infantry on the left side, so I make sure to let that happen and then continue it forwards so it can hide behind the house here. HS129 comes in again for another kill. Does not find it, gets a crew knockout onto the M4DD, and I was quite worried at this point that these M4s would break through. As you can see, the off-map is coming down, but thankfully having this 88 this far back means that any tanks that come down this road will get hit by the 88. And that's something I could really count on to sort of save my bacon should an aggressive play come through from these M4s. At least it wasn't until artillery came and spoilt the day. But with the reveal of the enemy artillery, I do hit it with the Panzerhaubitze Lorraine, and we can also see my Werframen is ready to go again, just on time. And this was so damn important, and it actually hits very, very well here. You can see that it goes straight into that infantry, hits the M4, and basically prevents another push into this right side. And I just had to keep doing this over and over and over again, because we'd already made 508 points at the end of the day, and there was a potential in the late game that we would make even more, because of course the Panthers are so damn good, and now Valh has two of them. It's a lot less likely they're going to get picked off individually. He manages to take out the Cromwell there. I brought up a B2 for the left side to accompany some of these Volksdeutsche. But yeah, once again, my idea is just to continue to hold the right side, and just in case this 88 goes down, I have brought up a Pak 43 to take its place already, since obviously there's a potential that they are focusing it. Now, in order to stop this infantry from pushing any more, the Panzerhaubitze Lorraine takes the place of the Werframen in just artying this road. Off-map does come down again. Does sort of pin down quite a bit of infantry here and there. But I'm just going to go straight in with the Pak 43 afterwards, and if they want to therefore push after the off-map, that Pak 43 will be in position, and that's just going to be really irritating for them. Unfortunately, this infantry does take an absolute ton of damage. This is like two 2-star M4s with a 1-star M4, and they all have 50 cal, so any infantry that does reveal itself gets hit very hard. But B2 didn't last long on the left. It actually got taken out very easily. And now I'm just bringing up a couple units of infantry to accompany Valh as he makes a push here. So yeah, the Cromwell 4 there, taking out the B2 on that left side. But as you can see over time, we have managed to sneak more and more infantry into this town. And it's just chewing away at the potential advantage that our opponents could have made in this game. And once again, Werframen coming in to save the day against an infantry push, manages to force them back once again. 88 is taking damage, but Pak 43 is in position. And that's going to be looking for the shot onto the Ranger Assault as it reveals itself. I was quite happy to let these AT guns use their HE, honestly, because it was pretty likely that they would spot them with recon anyway. In this case, Pak 40 goes down to the P38 Lightning. I bring in the ME109G6R6. I sort of micro it further left, and then I'm going to micro it in on the... so I can get on the back of the P38 here. At least that was the idea. Unfortunately, ME109... it takes a while to get on target, but eventually gets the kill. Sometimes they can do aerobatics instead of actually doing their job, and that was one case of that. Anyway, Pak 43 being spotted does mean that it does take artillery fire, which is to be expected, but it's just up to me to make sure that I'm using my Panzerhaubitze Lorraine to continue counter-battering as much as I can. The good thing about the 2nd Infantry is that a lot of their infantry is either mortars or like howitzers that aren't in a armoured vehicle. So that's something you can really take advantage of. with the 716th. Anyway, more artillery coming in. I'm of course just flooding in more and more infantry on this right side. I've even got a Feldpanzer 35 on the way, with the intention of using that at close range to engage the M4s if they get aggressive. But as long as my infantry remains in this location, it's just very hard for these M4s to make ground. The Verflammen also ready to go again. Only 4 rockets this time, but is reloaded technically, so able to stop the advance of more infantry if I want to, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Panthers have slowly but surely been chewing through a lot of the tanks on this left side, and that's allowed the advance of the Volksdeutsche that Valh has. Panther D going to be trying to engage the Challenger. Takes it out with the first shot, very nice indeed. 17 AP versus 7 armor. A shot on target would certainly do the job, and it did in this case. And we're back to a +1. Now, I am under a lot of pressure, but of course with us having a +1 and already 535 points on the board, it is very difficult now for the opponents to get the kills in. I also double HS-129 this right side at just the right moment, end up killing off 2 of these M4s that were pushing aggressively. And I think it's very lucky here that there wasn't like a Panzerfaust unit, because there's a potential that these units could have been easily surrendered. But using the terrain, I am going to be bringing in another Pak 43 to hopefully engage these tanks at the 1,200 meter range. I'm actually going to be using this tree line. Meanwhile, also trying to strafe them with the MU-109. And yeah, that's just in an attempt to make these continue to fall back and stop their morale recovery. Now, Tempest does come in to sort of take out the MU-109 G6R6, but doesn't quite do the job. My Flak 36 on this left side was such a lifesaver, but now the Pak 43 is in position, and that's going to really start damaging these tanks. One tank down. Now I'm going to be hitting the next one, and well, rhinos are as good as it gets for the 2nd Infantry, so when you start to kill those, that makes all the difference, and that proved to be enough to win us the game in this case. So the main reason I wanted to show you guys this game is not because it was like a victory, it was more just because it correlates so well with the game that we actually did play in the end. And I'll make sure to point that out when I show you guys the game of myself and Val playing against Haymaker and Betts in the 6th Division tournament. This was just like such good practice for that game. It's unbelievable. And I think it's also interesting for me to be able to talk about a lot of the thought process before you go and watch that video, because that video was actually recorded live. So you'll see me use a lot of the tricks I was talking about. For example, the B2 behind the orchard, and just like the territory in general, like the 88 being on the backside. The idea of pushing on the left side with Val. Like, all of those things were like ideas that we had for the situation where we were playing Axis on that side of the map. And yeah, so that was the plan we had going in to our tournament match. In terms of kills, well, that B2 did pretty damn well. Lots of rifle kills. You can see that with the Ranger Marauders taken out, the B2 was very free to engage behind the orchard there, and you probably didn't notice how many kills it was getting, but it was a hell of a lot. The Panzerhaubitze Lorraines, of course, hit the mark on the 6-pounder, 17-pounder, took out Bofors here and there. The HS-129s were actually really important, and making sure I had enough AA to sort of cover those was also important. MU-109 G6R6 got a couple of air kills as well, brought that in at a very precise time to get that Tempest kill, which was really good for us, as removing the enemy air force was important in order to control this game properly, because both the 2nd Infantry and the 6th Airborne have very strong airborne capabilities, or like air force capabilities, I should say. Now, the M4s, they were a problem, and they did do a lot of damage, but I think what I managed to do well was cover off with enough infantry that it still presented a threat. And in my 716th Division, I do use 6 Panzerschrecks. So there's a lot of thread of that throughout the entire game, honestly. Especially in a sort of terrain where it's quite sort of choke heavy. There's like 2 places where the tanks can push through on that right side, and it's like between buildings and hedgerows. So it's very difficult to make ground. You saw that later on where they just kind of got ruined by being all grouped up and then smashed by the HS-129s. But yeah, really cool game. In the end, 2,547 kills for myself, 1,710 losses. Valh unfortunately had a pretty difficult phase A. Both the Stugs went down and the SDKs had 7, which was unfortunate. But with the Panther Gs, he kept the initial one alive, backed it up with a second one, and that allowed us to get that ticking +1 towards the end, which really helped us out. So yeah, an awesome game, and just a practice game. So you guys better be ready for the actual tournament game, which is 2 games versus Haymaker and Betts in the 6th Division tournament. And that's basically all I have to say. I thought this would be nice as a sort of different video to usual, giving more of my own play and thoughts to the commentary than I otherwise would in the tournament play itself. So yeah, hopefully you guys appreciate it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.